Hey everybody, I'm Brittany Washburn. Thank you for joining me today. Nothing fancy today, it's just going to be me talking. I didn't put together PowerPoint slides or any of that like I did for the last one. If you are joining me, let me know in the comments that you're here, where you're from, how you know me, how you found out about this. I'd love to be able to keep the conversation going. Let me know what you teach. This is going to be a session for technology teachers with some ideas. We're calling it the big three components of structuring a, what did I call it? A 45-minute tech lesson. There we go. And I have some ideas for the little kids versus the bigger little kids, since we do have to kind of distinguish between them. So if you're watching with me live, awesome. We're just going to jump through it. If you're watching the replay, certainly let me know in the comments if you have any other ideas, things that you do, things that you've seen other people do that work with it. All right, so first is your warm-up. So I know for me, when I first was looking at how to plan a 45-minute lesson, particularly for the youngest students, I was like, what in the world? That is way too much time. That's way too much prep that I'm going to have to come up with this really long lesson. Are they going to have the stamina for it? What am I supposed to do? So I decided to split it into 3 components, and I had to. So the first step is your warm-up activity. So for my littlest ones, our warm-up is usually something on the smartboard because I had one. So I love, if you search PBS Kids Interactives, you're gonna find a whole incredible list of smartboard games broken up by subject area. So that is a really helpful tool to use, and I love to read to them. That one's one of my favorite things to do. So there are so many great technology books. Ooh, people are coming in. Let me know in the comments that you're here, because it just tells me a number. It doesn't say who's here, and I'd love to welcome you in. And thank you for jumping right in with me. Now you have my schedule too for the next few sessions, so you can know when to be available with me. Anyway, there are some really great books that I love, like Arthur's Computer Disaster. That is a super fun book to read. There are a whole bunch of them out there. Like one year I searched on Amazon and I found like 10 different computer books for the really young ones, like picture books, and our media specialist bought them for me, so I felt really special. But I added them to my classroom library and we read books all the time. Hey, welcome. All right, so that's for the little ones. That's the great warm-up. Do something on the board if you can. Read them a book that's related to the topic. And that'll kill a solid 10 minutes of class. Of course, them logging in is going to take another 15, so for them, the lesson's pretty short. For my older students, I love to do keyboarding and a Google log. So if you've been around and you are familiar with me, you're going to know that I use these 2 things all the time. So last week in my Facebook Live, I talked about entrance procedures and having just a really solid procedure, and I talked about keyboarding. So I have my students keyboard for about the first 10 minutes of class, put a timer up. With my 4th graders, though, it's a little bit different. I require them to do what I call a Google log. So for this, they are given a question and they have to go find the answer to it. So they're Googling it. We're working on Googling skills. We talk about keywords and Boolean search terms and the advanced features in Google, but they're out there, they're using that strategy, and that normally takes them about 10 minutes to find the answer and add it to their Google log, which has the date, what the question was, what the answer was that they found, their source, and later on we get to actually like citing the source. In the beginning of the year, it's just I ask them to put the URL, but then after that they have to tell me the source and we get to cite it. All right, so that was my ideas for the warm-up part of it. If you can kill 10-15 minutes with the warm-up activity, you're going to feel like your lesson time itself is much more manageable. So the problem with teaching elementary is that their stamina is not that great for really staying focused on a lesson. Plus, if you're a technology teacher, you're probably wanting to do something special because it's specials, right? And not torture them with academics the whole time. So my biggest thing that I learned that I love to do is always make sure that your students are making something. They're not just clicking where you tell them to click, but there's actually like a result at the end. I love using like Go Animate on ABCA or even the Paint tool on ABCA and having them make whatever it is that we're learning about. So I incorporated science into my lab one year, which was a blast. That was so much fun. So I would have them, like fourth graders were learning about building circuits. I had them go and paint a circuit, and then they shared it. Next week I'm going to be talking about some tools for students turning in assignments. They shared it with the class and were able to give feedback and see each other's circuits. And they had to build series and parallel circuits because that was our standard. It was a ton of fun. So make something and then have a place for them to put it, have a place for them to turn it in. I guess that's my plug for you to come back next week because I'm going to talk about some tools for turning it in. And then 3, you got to think about what to do with those early finishers. Yeah. So you only have 30 minutes with each class and 11 classes each day. That's totally crazy. Yeah, so you're probably just not going to be able to fit in the early finisher activities, even though they're a ton of fun. But you'll have students that still might get there. Keyboarding is still a really big deal, so have them do that if you can. Or maybe you save the book for them to look through for the littler ones at the end if they finish. Anyway, for the early finishers, I love to always make sure that I'm giving them options. That's the key. And it's not always websites, though. A lot of the options are going to be like, I do something that I got from Kathy Schrock. You might know that name. She's awesome in the tech world. She did something called sponge activities that I found out about. So that is just a list of learning games or websites where they can go if they finish early, and they're like, think of it like a sponge. They're soaking up a little bit of information in the time that they have. And I like that option. Of course, we want them to be able to get on websites, but I always have options that are on paper. So I made like computer vocabulary task cards that they could go through. I had my whole classroom library full of books, so they could always look through books. When we were doing internet safety, we had interactive notebooks, so they could work on their output if they were finished early. So input, output for interactive notebooks. If you're not totally sure about that one, Google it because they're a really cool tool to be able to use. So just think about some ideas that are not always tech-based, because some students, that's going to be their limit. I don't know about you, but if I have to sit in front of a computer too long, like I get a headache, I just can't focus on it. So to give those students another option, if that's not their main learning style, is a really good idea. So that was quick. 1, 2, 3. You want to include a warm-up, the main event, and something for your early finishers, and that will fill up that 45-minute specialist time. If you have it, if you only have 30 minutes, if you have more, if you have 60 or something, you can extend the main activity generally, make it 2 parts to it instead of just 1, and you'll get there. All right. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know in the comments, and for sure come back next week where I'm going to be talking about where to put the assignments. So some tools that you can use for having students turn in their assignments to you, no matter what your situation is. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.